Certainly, it's always good news when an American hostage comes home, but you kind of said it earlier, the last living American hostage that Hamas is holding, which means that Americans under Hamas's capture died in captivity, and that's unacceptable. I think the total was about 33 or so Americans that were taken and several who died. So I think Hamas is trying to engender a little bit of goodwill. They see Trump as different from previous presidents as this gesture that might perhaps exert a little bit more pressure on Netanyahu. Perhaps they're reading a little bit more into some of these headlines about Trump being, quote, disappointed in Netanyahu, which I think are a little bit overstated. However, his trip to the Middle East, visiting a lot of these countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, perhaps trying to restart the Abraham Accords, bring more nations into that fold. It's fascinating how much Trump just loves making deals. He likes making deals and agreements just for the sake of doing it. And it seems like the benefits are almost secondary. So read into that what you may. I think they're saying this is an opportunity, or perhaps they were also influenced or pressured by Iran to let this guy go in order to try to perhaps ease some of these negotiations with Iran's nuclear program. It's a very, very complex web.
Yeah, very layered, as you stated. And I do want to talk about that reported strained relationship in just a moment. But first, we know President Trump's Secretary Rubio, they're headed to the Middle East this week, reportedly an effort to drum up major investments for the U.S. What do you make, Armen, of the trip, the timing, any potential announcements on the other side?
I don't make anything specific in terms of the timing. Trump has already met with Netanyahu. They have a very deep relationship. Going to the Middle East, he hasn't yet met with the Middle Eastern nations in this capacity since he's taken office a second time around. So this is a natural progression. I fully expect that he will encourage these nations to continue to invest in the United States, perhaps a U.S. investment in their energy infrastructure, what have you. The heads of these nations, the sheiks, they like making deals too. They love money, but they also love international relations. And Saudi Arabia, I think, does still want to have some kind of reconciliation with Israel. They were almost there before the end of Trump's first term and right before Hamas attacked Israel. So I expect some really positive announcements to come out of this. It's interesting about this whole business jet, or this jet that Qatar wants to give the United States. So I expect a lot of things. I expect a lot more direct foreign investment, and I expect that the U.S. will take the Middle Eastern nations at their word to try to bring peace to the Middle East.
Well, I want to touch on these nuclear talks as well, the fourth round wrapping up today. On Wednesday, Vice President Vance said this, and we have a clip.
We think that there is a deal here that would reintegrate Iran into the global economy, that would be really good for the Iranian people, but would result in the complete cessation of any chance that they could get a nuclear weapon.
So President Trump, as you know, has said his preference is to work this out through diplomacy. In light of those comments by the VP, though, do you think military force will be necessary to achieve the level of agreement the Trump administration is asking for here? And how do you see this potential economic piece he was mentioning factoring in to these talks moving forward?
Boy, a lot to unpack there. So in the first administration, Trump managed to keep Iran at bay through a series of very strong, strangulating economic sanctions that basically stopped their money flow to their proxies within the Middle East. This second time around, I think that level of pressure is going to be necessary to get Iran to the table. In regards to military force, just strikes against Iran, I don't think will have a lot of impact and effect other than just destroying some things. However, the United States needs to be very clear that it does reserve the right to militarily destroy Iran's nuclear structure if we do believe they are on the path to building a nuclear weapon, or if it seems that they're going to be moving some of this enriched uranium out of the country, or if perhaps they're bringing in experts from, say, North Korea or Pakistan or expatriates to help design and build a nuclear weapon. We're really the only country that has a really good chance of destroying that infrastructure, considering how deep it's buried, how much it's actually protected. Yeah. I don't want Israel actually doing that. Ultimately, Trump doesn't like the use of military force. He used it against ISIS, and he's used it against the Houthi rebels. But he also understands the power of restraint, the power of other types of negotiations in order for the U.S. to advance its national interests.
Yeah, and this timeline, we need to get moving here. Armen Kurdian, thank you so much for the breakdown, as always.
Happy Sunday, Kelly.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.